Hear me?
And we're live with this week's Crypto Bootcamp weekly hangout on air. Welcome, AJ. Yep, we can hear you okay. Just firing up the actual live broadcast portion of the hangout so we can record it back to our YouTube channel. But so we got Brian here, we got AJ here, and I pinged about everybody else. It seemed nobody was paying attention to the calendar today.
Everybody's all buying Lambos again.
Yeah, right. Exactly. now that crypto's back on the way to the moon.
Right, that's it. It's up above 10K. They're like, fuck it, I'm gonna put my Lambo order back in.
No, we were talking earlier about, like what's the strategy for riding back up, right? Because we all ate shit for 6 weeks while we heard everybody and their cousin all of a sudden turn into crypto experts. They all have $0 in holding, but they're all ready to tell us what dumbasses we are, right?
Right.
And so now, Bitcoin is safely back above the 10K mark, seems to be on the track up. Now we're starting to see some optimism in the market. But I mean, everybody who held through that last 6 weeks, it was like, hey, this happens every year. This is the normal cycle of shit. Don't freak out, so here we are. But the question now is, a lot of us are still spread because if you didn't consolidate right before the crash happened, you might still be spread among a bunch of alts. Yeah, that's me too, no question. And the alts obviously are coming back up slowly, but they don't, have the same movement. They're not seeing the same growth at the same pace that Bitcoin is. And so you're in a place where you have to decide now, do I want to continue making trades when my alts are down, knowing that, I'm going to be sort of realizing a short loss in the hopes of riding BTC back up again? Or do you continue to hold on those, pump new USD in? Or do you continue to hold and do nothing and, hope that your alt spread is going to catch up enough where it makes trades viable but without realizing a loss along the way?
All those are options, honestly.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is they're all options. It's what do you do?
Yeah, right. It's what do you do? I mean, personally, in my alts, I'm just kind of hanging out until I see some sort of return because I know what I'm invested in, I believe in. So I'm just kind of hanging on temporarily, at least.
Boat on a lot of that. I mean, like I consolidated a bunch as things were starting to go down just to keep it manageable. I think I dropped from like 12 to about 6.
Makes sense.
But it's still like, Verge is still way down, obviously, and who knows if that's going to recover at all. It depends entirely on the project. Tron is still reasonably down from where I picked it up. I mean, I got a lot around 750, so we're still around like 5 and 550, and then a few others I'm just like deeply dead on, like Request and Sindano and Cardano, and
Cardano is strong though. Cardano is strong. It's a strong coin.
Yeah, and I'm not, again, I only tend to invest in alts that I think have good opportunities long term anyways.
Right.
I'm stuck holding them. I'm not mad about it,
Right. Gotcha. That was the biggest market crash that I've experienced. And I don't know. There was a point where I didn't set my stop loss in time. I had been following it, had been paying attention. And as soon as in my head, my stop loss that I have in my head, if that falls below that, I'm just holding at that point. I didn't consolidate quick enough. So I'm just hanging out.
Well, that was kind of part of the thing. I got caught up with work and some business shit. And so there was about 72 hours where massive drops occurred. And I just was not prepared for it. I literally wasn't paying attention to my portfolio at the time. And that's one of the things we talk about, where it's dangerous to day trade if you're not a day trader. Because if you can't stay on top of it constantly, right, then you'll end up on the downside. And losses happen way the hell faster than growth does. So it makes you stay in this long, like, oh God, I'm hurting here,
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still up like $150 or so in lots over what I put in initially,
Good. That's good. I'm negative, but that's good. I think when everybody realized, was reading the charts and looking at the TA and seeing the correction coming, they were perfectly okay shorting. And I think collectively with everybody having that mindset, having the, okay, we're shorting. And then collectively it all happened at the same time was definitely the biggest part of that, I think.
Well, you had a whole hell of a lot of brand new traders in, and they, you know,
Right.
most of those guys, like, they're approaching it from a more traditional Forex perspective, you know,
Right.
which doesn't really work well for crypto. Because, like, it's, you know, typically if we put stop losses in or whatever, we're putting them in at like 20% above, you know, what we paid for it, whereas a lot of the traditional guys are putting it in at 20% below what they paid for it, you know?
Right. Just in case they like, if I need to lose, I'm going to lose just a little bit instead of like taking what you profit and then getting out and sucking up a big thing. And then if you need to buy back in the future, which you know it's going to increase, you have the option to do that and then still have your money. You know, it's risk for reward kind of stuff. And you just got to know what that comes with experience. You know, I'm a new trader myself, and I didn't really, having experienced all this and hold through the entirety of it and watching people analyze the data and how they like, I don't know how to like put that into terminology exactly.
Hindsight.
It was just.
Well, that was, you know, I mean, that you kind of touched on it earlier. Like, one of the biggest things that we saw was the, you know, the automated selling. You know, just we would hit new rounds of automated sell, automated sell, automated sell, and it would burn through sell orders, and then it's dropping down to the next sell order set, and that's dragging the price down with it every time. You know.
Sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And very little of that was actual conscious decision making. It was all like everybody's automated trades firing off, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it would be interesting if that data was readily available to find out of those trades, the bots, the whale bots, and the, you know, like what was really human. Where were the computers being, you know, just manipulating everything in because they could, because there is no sheriff to stop all of that, you know, ridiculous volume trading that happened. And the other thing, you know, as far as not being a day trader and getting put in this position where it's like, hey, you could day trade and make some money on some things, be like, there's also an emotional place that day traders learn to be in. And I think coming from a place of, you know, buying into crypto for the ideological reasons and holding into, you know, buying it end of 2016, beginning of 2017, because, you know, because I felt like I was already 5-6 years late on shit, right? And then holding because it wasn't a matter of trying to be a day trader. And then at the end of 2017, seeing that there could be some sort of like, you know, hey, people are making money. I got some money. Let me do some of this day trading. But then realizing that you're not emotionally prepared to do that shit. The up and downs, the FOMO, like, you're not, like, that is as much part of training to be a day trader as the technical analysis bullshit, right? Because technical analysis is a little bit of, to me, in my completely you know, I'm no TA genius, but from reading all of the different TAs and stuff like that, I think that half of it's bullshit, right? Half of it's speculative. You get people who believe that they, you know, oh, listen, my shit has been on point so many more times than not, but has it, right? Or do you just forget all those other times where your shit wasn't on point? Be like, see, it was only on these that I was being real. Yeah, it's a rough emotional transition.
Well, I think a lot of people have, you know, I mean, how many people have we seen just like freak out and suddenly switch from being crypto supporters to, oh my God, this is all, you know, bullshit, blah, 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 blah. And it's like
in the flick of a switch too. It wasn't even like, fuck it, Bitcoin sucks. Like, what? Are we not like making the world a better place? What? Hello? Bye. It's nice seeing you guys. Come on, like, now.
Why did you get it? Did you think this was a get rich quick scheme?
Oh yeah. Like when I first originally got into it, that was the original. Like when I when I first heard about it, like not invested, but when I first heard about it, it was a get rich kind of mentality. And then when I learned about it, what it was, that fucking turned like 180 degrees, and I just ran with it. I got so passionate so fast. I don't know, like other than video games in my professional career, I hadn't been that passionate about anything in a long time. So that fucking woke me up, dude. Really, really did.
Right. I mean, it's funny because we talk all the time about, I've mentioned several times on here that, trading for me was a way to be educated as to the market.
Right.
Because we're building crypto products. And so I wanted to make sure I understood what the market looked like and what happens with the coins in the market. Just because like when you're crafting a new token or you're building a dApp or something along that line, you need to understand the impact of crypto economics on your application.
Right.
And so, I have a lot less holdings than some of the other, some of our little group whales have. But enough to keep me interested and to pay attention and to feel it when it drops,
Right.
And it's, so it's, I think I've got a built-in balance to my perspective because this isn't like my retirement, right? This is a way that I stay educated as to the space.
Right.
But a lot of people, if they're just treating it as a traditional investment vehicle and they don't have a good understanding of the underlying technology and all the rest of those things, I mean, it's, that's just nothing but sheer panic. Imagine if you were holding IBM, a couple of weeks ago when the market started taking a dump and you're like, what the shit,
Right.
The biggest upside to traditional stock trading is that a lot of folks don't actually participate in stock trading. They buy funds, they buy mutuals, they buy indexes, they buy,
Right.
And so they're not personally responsible for managing individual shares. And if they were, you'd have seen way more than a 3% market correction when the Dow shit itself 2 weeks ago.
Right. Right. Well, you definitely, when things move to that degree back down in the opposite, you get a market correction for crypto, it gave me a lot of understanding to whom was in that position, just trying to, jump on the next get rich quick scheme. For me, it was kind of both, right? Because it was almost like you missed out on jumping in on something that you believe in that could have got you fucking stupid rich. It was almost like the .com bubble, be like, people talk about it being a bubble, but nobody reminds everybody that people got buttloads of money on shit that they believed in, right? People were buying .coms like it was freaking land plots, right? And having people buy those from them. That in and of itself, to me, was like, I was an idiot because at the time I could register domains for like pennies on the dollar,
Yep.
Doing the same thing that crypto is, like I own a domain name and you're going to pay me 20 grand for it. Why? Because you want this name, Nike. And it's mine.
Coke. I mean, that happened over and over again. When W3C first started issuing domain names, they were giving them away for free with a 10-year lease.
Yeah. Okay.
So as fast as you could register names, what can you think of that's a major brand, right?
Right. Right.
And I was in technology at the time, but I was in infrastructure, so I wasn't really looking at the potential of the World Wide Web. I wasn't focused on it,
Yeah, or even being from a technological background, you'd be like, so why don't you just give everybody your IP address? What the fuck is a domain name? Why does it really matter? Just dial up the freaking
like a phone number, man. 235.66.10.5. What's the problem?
It's like some phone number, right? Be like, they're just not gonna have a problem leading that. Yeah, but people would so much rather type in a word they remember that's already associated with your brand. So, but yeah, same deal. So when crypto came around, I felt like I had missed out. Same thing on registering a bunch of domains or jumping on something that I believed in that could have made me a shit ton of money. But then here in these, these momentarily bubble bursts that have been happening, or market corrections, as people like to call them, you learn who's in it. You're like, damn, I lost $1,000. This is all bullshit and speculation, and nothing had any real meaning to it and anything like that. Well, yeah, sure, you're right. But it was that way to begin.
I guess this should be a huge educational experience for all the new people who've jumped in this year, right? And we know for a fact that cryptocurrency, I mean, they call 2017 the year of the ICO, right? That it's more people jumped on crypto in 2017 than in all of the previous years put together.
Sure.
And so you've got, shit tons of new users in the space. They don't understand the marketplace. Yep. And if they feel like they get burnt, they become the worst kind of anti-testimonial, right?
Sure.
They're out there telling everyone, fuck crypto, it's a scam, blah, 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 blah. Somebody was all pissed off at me on a Facebook thread. And he's like, what should I tell that grandmother who bought it 19,000? I'm like, you should have told her not to buy the token at the all-time fucking high, maybe? I don't know.
Use your brain a little bit.
Yeah, that's not my
can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. Hi, guys. I'm Mark.
Yeah, tell Grandma sorry and hold on for dear life. I mean, yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, it's I was sitting there, and of course, it was we touched 6, which was a low number for what Bitcoin has been anytime recently, and you had a lot of people who were like, it's going down to 2.
I didn't see it going below 4 in my opinion. Maybe no.
I'd have had
bottom for me.
I saw a bunch of professional TA guys talking about next support's down around 3. We may see it bottom out at 2, and I'm like, and it's very difficult to be like, that's not going to fucking happen based on your belief in the underlying fundamentals when they're looking at a market that's cratering, and so it looks. From a trending perspective, it's like, oh shit, this bitch is headed straight down,
Right.
But you look at the 1 year now, right? Because I'm a big fan of every time it starts getting crazy, pull out and look at the 1 year, right? And so if you look at crypto over the 1 year, you see that we had kind of a peak high there, but if we chop out that peak high, we're still actually on a pretty predictable trend for growth, right? And we're following that exact cycle that we saw previously, that chart that got shared around the group a few times, where it's like you've got that peak and then you've got the valley, but then the valley bottoms out at somewhere above 50% of what the previous peak was, and then it's on up from there, right? And
right.
That's what your 1 year chart is starting to look like now that we're seeing some recovery. We could potentially be at 11K by the end of the day. It's 10.8 right now, right? So it's
yeah.
My recommendation
for
crypto has been you have one of 3 options, right? Buy a stack and fucking forget about it. Leave it on a goddamn USB or cold storage or whatever, and just ignore it. Come back next year, or buy a stack, participate, maybe spread it out among some alts, read about projects, read white papers, get educated about what crypto is. And maybe you spread that out a little bit. You've got a little bit of a diversified holding. And every now and then you make some trades to, kind of get up a little bit, Tron 5Xs. And you're like, hey, it's a good time to sell that,
Yeah.
Or day trade, but if you're gonna fucking day trade, then be a day trader. That means you need to be in there every day. It means you need to learn TA. It means you need to be doing due diligence on these companies and reading all the Telegram channels and reading all the news reports that are coming out and understand fundamentally how and why the market moves.
That's what I'm doing actually, full-time day trading cryptos.
Are you really?
Yeah, and it's going very, very well. And actually, I do hold some actual coin, but my primary weapon of choice is the Bitcoin futures contract. And
are you playing CME?
Yes, I do CME and CBOE.
Okay.
It depends on how much leverage I want to use. The CME is a contract. It's a big boy. It's worth 5 Bitcoin. And what I like about that is you put half up front. And, depending on what your profits are, you're not going to pay any more than 17%, which is a lot more forgiving than what you would make on, crypto purely, so that's what I like. And I take the profits and I put them in crypto for long-term holding, which is great because the capital gains tax is going to be lower. And I'm looking at this like you guys are, which is in the long term. I think Bitcoin is just going to be a monster. Bitcoin is going to be like that digital gold. It may not be the fastest, choice for like actual payments, but I do see its value, like as a store of value, So what I'm doing is,
well, it's nice to know that a more traditional trader is thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so I'm day trading it, and what I like is, since this market opens 24 hours a day, you can just jump in at any time and just do, 100 here, 200 there. But I usually trade several contracts. So let's say if I have the CBOE contract, which is equal to 1 Bitcoin, and let's say I do like 8 contracts and it goes up $100, that's $800 I'm making just within seconds, so it's very powerful to get in and out. And the other thing is, when you're trading futures, I'm getting charged $5 a contract, and that's really, really good, because if I did this through, say, GDAX or Gemini or something like that, I would be paying a substantial amount in fees alone just to get in and out of Bitcoin. You're talking, that kind of volume, over $100,000, maybe like $30-50 at least.
Although you get 50% discount if you're using BNB to pay your fees.
Oh yeah, well yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then there's the other thing of
first round of CME.
Oh, what's that?
Were you in on the first round of CME contracts?
Yeah, actually, yes. I was one of the first 10 contracts ever, and I had 2 of those. I was just testing it out when it got released in December. They opened at 15,000. I wrote them up to 19. I sold, and crazy thing is, I was really, really cautious when it got to that 19K, because I'm like, okay, this is too much, too fast, overheating. So I went all of January not even touching it. I just took the month off, and then come February, this thing starts tanking. As soon as it hits 6K, I'm like, all right, it's time to jump in. When it hit 7K, I went all in, and now we're sitting pretty. I don't know how I was able to see that, but I've been trading the stock market since 2009, so I got almost a decade of experience. And crypto is just it's a different animal. I know a lot of technical analysis, but I don't think you can only do so much when it comes to crypto. You have so many variables, it's very sensitive to news. You have all these newbies getting in, 100,000 plus accounts, like, per week. The exchanges can't keep up with the volume. So technical analysis only goes so far, but if you're able to see like where the major trends are, and you've been trading for a while, it's something you get used to it. But yeah,
we've talked a few times, and I'm really glad you joined, because you're one of the few people, I think, probably in the group who have actually participated in CME and CBOE and have done some traditional day trading. One of the things that I've specifically argued is that one of the functions of volatility in crypto is the small total market cap size compared to our traditional markets. Thoughts on that?
It is small. The stock market is worth about $26 trillion.
Right.
So when you look at Bitcoin and just the overall crypto, not even half a trillion yet. We were there when it was at its peak. It was like 800 billion. But I consider the crypto market still really in the early young stages. A lot of people are like, oh my God, Bitcoin's worth 10,000. They don't even know what is about to come, because once the end of this year happens and they're seeing Bitcoin starts hitting 20, 30, 50K again, what I think is going to happen with Bitcoin is that people are going to start expecting the dips. And when you expect them, when you notice, like when you reveal a strategy to somebody, you put it on the forum or something, hey guys, try this out. It stops working. And I think these dips are going to happen less and less. Like, I don't really think we're ever going to see 6K again. That's historic. It's gone. It's never going to happen again. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, I think the market cap for crypto is really small in comparison to what it can become. I see a trillion by the end of, if not this year, for sure, end of 2019, for sure. And
now,
also,
alts, or are you strictly in Bitcoin?
you know, I like some alts. I like Neo. That's pretty much the only one. I've looked at others. I'm very picky. I like Ether, but Ether kind of competes with Neo. Bitcoin is good. If I had to pick another alt, I would use it to use it as a form of payment. So let's say I'm trying to buy something from you and we want it quick, low fees or no fees. I'd probably switch some over to Litecoin and send it to you, or some Dash or Ripple or whatever. But the reason why I won't go into altcoins, personally, it's just for tax reasons. My taxes are already complicated enough, and most of the alt exchanges are overseas. Binance is amazing. I've used them before, but I don't know how to account for all the profits I'm making and this and that. And I did some trading with them, and then I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have a huge tax mess, because I don't think they're gonna issue me a W-2. I'm sorry, a 1099. Whatever respective form that they're supposed to. So I'm gonna have to do that manually, personally.
There's no
so
1099.
I didn't want to do that. So what was that? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, I was saying, if there's no 1099, then it never really happened, right? It's like if there's pictures, if there's no pictures.
That's true. I mean,
if you take profits, it's a different story.
But you can only go so far with that. And once you start you getting in the 6-figure range, 7 figures, the IRS is going to look at you very, very closely. So I don't really want them to have any more reasons to look at me, basically. That's just my thing, I mean, I could still report it, it's not a big deal, but I just prefer not to deal with the mess. So I'm all in Bitcoin and Ether. I love Neo, I really do, and I hope that maybe one of the U.S. major exchanges decides to offer it one day, but I don't know. But yeah, there's surprisingly.
That with capital gains being the sort of core identifying factor here, and with the IRS making a determination that every trade, whether you realize a gain or not, is going to be considered a taxable transaction, I think tax strategies are absolutely going to have to be part of what we're all planning for in 2018. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, it's going to be critical to it. I think there's a few different ways you can probably deal with it. I think, and I am not a tax attorney or a CPA or anything along that line, so this is purely my opinion based on doing taxes over the last 10 years for the business. I'd be willing to bet that if you simply reported your gains at the end of the year as miscellaneous income and paid that as part of normal taxes, and it's not above a certain threshold of volume, that's probably going to satisfy the IRS.
I actually agree with that. I do. I mean, because at least it shows that you tried, so it's not tax evasion, it's more of like an error. So
tax ignorance. I didn't know that money.
Well, what would happen in that case
is your income, right?
Yeah, so you could amend your tax return.
If you just use the wrong calculations to determine how much tax was due, then worst case scenario, you get a bill for back taxes if they decide to do the full audit,
Exactly. Ooh. So that would get amended rather than it's not classified as tax evasion. They would just have to amend the taxes, which is not that big of a headache,
This might sound crazy, but I'm not even going to file taxes. I'm going to wait to see what they find, and then I'm going to go from there.
What hypothetically?
Wait,
what happens if the collective community in the crypto space decides to not pay taxes? Hypothetically, what happens?
What I think is that the IRS will not be able to keep up with everybody, and they're going to try to crack down. But I'm just going to say this, guys. because I've been hearing this a lot about taxes, and I have some other friends in the crypto scene, and I just want to say this: if you have made gains from crypto on a U.S. exchange, Coinbase, Gemini, whatever, they will find out because they're going to issue you a 1099, and the IRS gets a copy of that. So what you don't know is that the IRS is already waiting for you to declare it.
Yeah,
so
if you for a transcript.
I mean, if you wait like past the year, they will know that you're late.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the hit. I'm gonna take the hit and get the transcript. I mean, honestly, that's the only way that I'm gonna fully know what they know.
I do not want to invite an audit because when they audit, they don't just audit you for 1 year.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'd rather stay away from the A word.
I have a feeling it's bound to happen. I mean, Bittrex is U.S. based. I mean, I don't know what they're doing about 1099s or whatnot. So I don't have any clue other than places that are like you can actually purchase for like with fiat from. I'm sure those are the only places actually giving in 1099s, given out.
Yeah,
I mean, as far as I know.
Well, I agree with you on that, but like they were saying, it's like the IRS already got their copy. It's like your parent when they know that you did something really shitty and you come in the kitchen and they're just waiting for you to be like, "So, how was your day today?" And you're like, "Fuck, he knows."
Hey, I've done it in the past and it worked. So
might work.
I know a lot of people opting to do that this year. It's pretty crazy. Or next year at least.
Well, and to what everybody else was saying too, I think that there's so many transactions, there's so many new people, jumping into this that the IRS is kind of doing that, like threatening. You should regulate yourselves and make sure everybody does what you're supposed to do, okay? Because we'll know. But secretly behind the things, they're going, we don't even have any people. I mean, to write all these scripts, to figure out where all these damn money, you're like, we'll have to hire a whole new government of people just to read the transactions.
They have someone already who's traced down a bunch of stuff. I read some article the other day.
I mean, there's a software called Chain Analysis that if they've got the wallet IDs, that's all they need is the wallet ID. If they've got that, they can track every transaction.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. Wow. I mean, unless you're using like something, anonymous, but that's another story.
Insert privacy clause, question mark.
And also, I do a lot of high frequency trading. There's a real like blurry line there from what I understand thus far. I'm still trying to figure that out, but there's some blurry lines about how they're able to tax you with HFT. I need to find out about that a little bit more.
Personally, I found out I had the experience of being in a small business that had some success and seeing my tax liability jump by 4x, 5x in 1 year, and I was just wildly unprepared for it. I tend to try and be proactive and stay ahead of that versus catching it on the backside, because once they start levying fees and late payment charges and all that extra crap, it's like for the last few years, an IRS bill has been part of my monthly budget because I've been on an installment plan with them, just trying to catch up on back-to-back taxes, So the last thing that I want to do is get upside down in crypto taxes and not realize it,
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm on one too, to be honest with you. I do it on purpose though, because I prefer not to pay them as much as I can. Like, I'd rather pay $50 for the rest of my life a month, or whatever it is, $150. But
if it's not 50 or 150, I can tell you that.
Well, no, I mean, I've had humongous tax bracket increases like overnight. I mean, it's just like, I guess it's just a big game. It's like this right now, this whole crypto thing. Nobody knows what's gonna happen, so it's just a big game, I think.
Mike, you hoping to die before you pay
until we actually know? Exactly.
Like, oh well, I know I owe you $100,000, but I'm out. Deuces.
Nah, you gotta keep it below 50 so you can go out of the country and stuff like that.
Okay, noted.
Hey.
Funny.
I am Portopia. Meet you there.
Yeah, I'm actually going over there this weekend.
My boss is down there with 6 colleagues, and they're looking to invest in property on there right now.
It seems everybody's ready to go to Puerto Rico now that there's no electricity.
No taxes either.
There's a
Just
tax.
saying.
Bitcoin at 6K.
It's too
Everything can be built.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but you know what's shitty is you can't mine too well with no electricity.
Yeah, that's true. But they got lots of sunlight down there.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say you got to go green at some point.
Okay. Oh my God. Well, and my buddy was talking about this the other day. As far as a store of value, be like the amount of electricity that it costs to actually run the Bitcoin network far surpasses the amount of money that they put in it. Or he had some mathematical. He's like, so Bitcoin can go up, but only when it gets to like 30 grand will it be worth more than the electricity you bought it with.
Nah, we're gonna outdo we're not gonna be able to sustain it for too long. We're already
we're
using
not.
enough to power I think they said 60 countries.
No, that's not true.
There's factual numbers out there right now. People did the research on this already.
Yeah,
I don't know where
I've
to
heard
find it.
so much about it that we're actually not using as much power as people are saying for that. I don't know. I just don't know what to believe now.
Oh yeah. Wait till it comes out on American medicine and then believe it, right?
So check this out. Russia is starting to mine, and they have cheap and plentiful power because they have nuclear power plants, and they're thinking of putting a huge mining operation in Siberia where it's cold. So it's not only cold but cheap power, and once they start mining, they're actually saying that it's going to be more profitable for them to mine Bitcoin than pump oil, and that's what they're known for.
That's crazy.
So they're gonna, and they're trying to take the market share of miners away from China. So I mean, if you do it with that, something, if for a place like Russia, they would have no problem mining it, like no problem, because they have a lot of power. And if it's in a place that's cold, you're not gonna. It just reduces costs even more. So, and I do think Bitcoin's gonna go past the 30-50K mark. And I don't know if you guys have heard, but Samsung, they're starting to make the mining chips also. So there's a lot of big players that are pumping money into these operations. So I just don't see. Bitcoin right now at 10K, 11K, it's super undervalued. Super, super undervalued. I would buy, if I had more money, I would put more of it in Bitcoin. That's my prediction. I could be wrong though, but I have text messages that I can show you where I told every one of my friends that Bitcoin was going to tank from 19K and I told them I was going to snatch it up under 8K, and they thought I was crazy. And some of them bought at 19K and they're still holding. I'm like,
I told them at 10K.
It'll go back a bit.
At 10K, we saw a bloodbath the following day.
Yeah.
Well, no, not the following day. So here's the thing, and I've heard that a couple of times, but it's not true. We didn't sleep for 3 days during that time. I had Crypto Bootcamp. You can go back and look, and I said there's a massive, massive sell wall at 10K. When we crack 10K, get out fast and get ready to get back in when it drops down. Put your buy orders in at like 7 and 6, right? And instead, that didn't happen. It went all the way up to 15K. It took another 3 days before the downturn. And the reason why was because South Korea put $1 billion in new USD into the market as soon as it broke 10K. So it completely offset that normal down cycle that you would expect after a milestone gets hit,
Right.
That was well overdue.
Hey, so what are you guys' thoughts on Tether? Because really,
they print that stuff out. It's well overprinted, yeah.
Hey, what are you guys' thoughts on Tether? Because from what I'm seeing, that is like the only threat that I'm seeing right now for Bitcoin is that Tether shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are you guys thinking?
They printed too much of it for number one. They print out like 100 million Tether whenever they need it over there. And now they got the audits and stuff going on. I mean, unless they got the funds to back what they say they have, then I don't. It is a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where that's going to go. I'm paying close attention to the market cap, which is, I believe, under 3 billion. It's not too big, but I'm pretty sure if Tether collapsed, if you know, let's say the audit goes through and we found out that they don't have enough to back it up dollar for dollar, and that they're just printing money like some fucking central bank or something, and they go under, I do think that is going to damage Bitcoin. I don't think it's going to, you know, I don't know how big the damage would be, but it probably would be significant. Because
why do you think so?
Okay, see, that is where it gets complicated, because for one, the Tether is used for the alt exchanges. You have Binance, Bittrex, Bitfinex, Cryptopia, et cetera, et cetera. And all those, they need that, because sure, you can trade Bitcoin pairs, Bitcoin for Neo, Bitcoin in relation to Ether, whatever, but some people just can't math like that. It's just easier for them to do Tether.
Yeah,
you know, it's
that's
just easier.
The thing I think is,
Yeah,
you have to go back into BTC, you end up losing money, so you want to get out as fast as you can into something that's
exactly. So you're going to take it. Just imagine taking a bunch of traders off the market like that. You're going to lose a lot of liquidity. You're going to, Bitcoin's not going to be shifting and exchanging in volume the way it should be. If you want Bitcoin to succeed, you want very high volume of activity. And that would just collapse in overnight. Like, Bitcoin could have a substantial drop if that happens. So that's something that I need to, personally, that I'm keeping track of, is what the hell's Tether doing? I don't want to see that thing at 10 billion, because then I know that it's full of shit. There's no way they have 10 billion that quickly. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't know. I just I don't trust it. You know, I don't even know like why it exists or whatever, but that's just my
that's
opinion.
what I was wondering, is like, why are these different exchanges, you know, Binance or whatever, the especially like you said, the ones high in altcoins, why don't they have a fiat accessible, you know, pair, or whatever?
Regulation. Just it's easier for them, because they don't have to, when they don't deal in fiat, they can circumvent all kinds of regulation, all kinds. Right. It's just easier for them to operate, but will it catch up to them later? Who knows?
Right.
Who knows?
And then the second part of that question is because you guys were talking about the trading volume, or the way that people mentally feel like they're moving out of a fiat currency or back into, to feel like they're moving out of their position or holding or whatever the case may be. But, you know, would that be as simple fix as in, you know, like some of the exchanges show you what your pair value is in US dollar? Like, could there just be an interface where it says, if this was US dollar, it would be X amount of money?
Well, no, Bitfinex does that.
I mean, that could work, but I mean, Binance already does that.
Yeah,
right.
And I, you know, but like, I've traded on Binance, I've traded the pairs. I don't like Tether, so I'll trade like you know, Bitcoin and Ethereum pair or whatever, or Neo, whatever it is. I can do the math.
Trade BTC or ETH.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't have a problem doing the math, but I know that even for me, if I'm under a lot of stress because I'm trying to day trade, and you have to be very quick and you have to take advantage of these moves, yeah, it's easier to do it in dollars. That's why I was like, yeah, I'm not going to deal with Binance. If anything, I'll deal in GDAX if I have to trade crypto like that. But that's why I'm going towards futures. Futures for me makes it super simple, you know.
One thing
but yeah.
Observed... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't even have to be Tether. I mean, look at Ripple. It's only $1.10.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Actually, I've actually noticed this. Because I write software as well. So I write bots and shit like that. I have noticed, like, when when BTC is tanking, a lot of volume goes into these really cheap coins, and I think that's where a lot of people hide out until things pick back up.
Which is what a lot of us have done, right? I mean, as soon as Bitcoin hit 16.9, I sent it all to Binance and diversify because I was just like, this is way too high for what it is. There's going to be a crash coming soon, and I want to get out of it, right? What I didn't account for was the follow-up crash that happened across alts. So now I'm down on my alts as well, you know?
Well, everything follows BTC. I mean, if you look at the charts, you put everything up next to each other, it almost will follow to the T.
That's right. That's 100% right. That's why when I was looking at the so I had everything in what do you call it, Binance, and I was looking at the crash, and that's where I started running into a problem because I knew that we were going to crash, and I knew that I had to be in a coin because I'm in Binance. So I had to transfer that to Coinbase and put it in cash, which, it's a hassle to do because everything is pegged to Bitcoin. It's just, even the stock markets work like that.
So is if you've got a coin that's brand new out of the gate and it's on the uptake, right? And Bitcoin is higher than hell, you could take one Bitcoin and pick up 100,000 tokens across a 5 or 6 coin spread. And then as they start coming up, as they hit their development milestones and all the rest of that, and as the value of Bitcoin comes back up, you end up in a significantly higher place. You know what I mean? Just because of the fact that you've spread it out and diversified so far across coins that are cheap and on the come up.
Yeah. Well, and that's you were saying, I think in a couple, one of your buddies was saying that, Chris, a couple hangouts ago, that you don't necessarily have to constantly be coming back to USD or Tether even, but as long as the position that you move back to is increased, right? So if you're playing BTC,
position in that same token of whatever you're trying to hold. For me, it's BTC. I'm going to keep coming back to BTC.
Right. So you had a half of BTC, you made some moves, now you came back to BTC and you had 3/4 of one, or 2.5. You made profit. And I think that's about
that was the first thing that we did was fun. And when we started, doing trading with altcoins, was fundamentally divorce yourself from the BTC to USD pair, because that's where all the panic fear comes from, and solely focus on how do I increase my position in BTC, and those are the plays for me. And so, like Tron, I got into Tron. I picked up a few thousand Tron at 297 sats. It spiked 5x to 1551. Now I'm 5x the total BTC I had before, right? I don't care what the relative change in USD value is. Now, when I trade that back, I have a significantly higher amount of Bitcoin,
Wait, that's actually a pretty good idea. So wait, you're telling me if there's an imminent downward trend, I guess one option is the dollar tether, but you're saying that there's an alternative to that, and rather just go to an altcoin that has taken, because the thing with altcoins is that they typically take a bigger hit than Bitcoin. Right. So, I mean, if it has a good recovery and it bounces back and your timing is good, then that's one way to increase your Bitcoin.
And the smaller the coin, the lower the USD value of the coin, the higher the volatility they have on a regular basis, because one good news story and they can triple up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Even when BTC
if I spend one Bitcoin and I get 100,000 Tron, for instance, right? And then the value of Tron goes 5x because of a good news story, which happened in December. I made out really well on that, right? Now my one Bitcoin, as soon as I exit, is 5 Bitcoins.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how we're trading the pair, to increase position on our target major token.
Right. And I think that training of the mind is something that, as people in the cryptocurrency market, we bring value. That's the underlying idea of Bitcoin to begin with, right? To upset this fiat world. but somehow we're all kind of really stuck with that dollar because we know that a dollar will buy me some shit at the store. You know, a Bitcoin won't yet, right? So I think we're emotionally tied to that dollar bill, you know, fiat of currency of choice. And it really is, it is more about just increasing position, you know, increasing volume, whatever, however you want to quantify it in Ripple or Litecoin or Bitcoin or whatever. You know, we all know you're going to end up changing it to whatever, you know, fiat you're going to live in, you know, whether it be Great British Pound, you know, the Euro, whatever. All
right.
But, yeah.
Brian, I'm going to cut you off there. It's 5 after 5. Mark, I'm really, really, really glad you joined. I'm hoping you'll join again in the future. And also, I would really love it if you would take the time to just write up a little bit about your CME/CBOE experience on the group. I think there are a lot of people who are very, very, very interested in traditional investing approaches around cryptocurrency. So that would be
thanks for having me. Yeah, absolutely.
And we do this every Saturday at 4 p.m. EST. So please feel free to come back and join again. And you as well, Mike. But I'm going to stop the broadcast at this point, and then, of course, it's free chat after that. For those of you watching on YouTube, thanks for tuning in, and see you next week.